Okay, so today we're going to be going through how to write an introduction. Remember, we need to have all of these 6 key ideas: genre, viewpoint, structure, our AO3, intention, and anchoring to the question. I will break down what these things are. Don't worry, and just make sure we're remaining calm so we can actually answer this properly. So, with our first point, so thinking about in genre, what category of literature do we have? We have poetry. Thinking about, is it a romantic poet? Is it a poet specifically talking about war? What type of literature there? Then we've got viewpoint. So is there one person telling the story, or do we see the event taking place from multiple different perspectives? In London, we see it from Blake's point of view, so it's one person. In Ozymandias, we see it from multiple perspectives. Then thinking about the structure. Remember, with London, it is in ballad form. If you're not sure about that, do go through your study guide to help you with that. And it's set in quatrains. Whereas Ozymandias is set in a sonnet, which has an octave and a sestet. So the ideas change in the sestet. Then we've got AO3, our social and historical context. For example, with Ozymandias, it's about Pharaoh Ramses II. So why, and then you could link that to writer's intention. Why is Shelley including this person? What is he criticizing about Pharaoh Ramses II? You've also got thinking about social ideas. So thinking about Industrial Revolution in London. There was a French Revolution in the backdrop of Europe. Are there any problems in society that the writers are trying to highlight or trying to comment on? And thinking about why the writers are writing this text. What do they want to achieve? And then when it says anchoring to the question, we're making 3 clear points that would become part of our paragraphs. They would be at the beginning of each of our 3 main paragraphs. Okay, so we're going to be moving on now to the actual paragraph. So we've got an example paragraph here that we're going to pick apart to see where we see all of these sections here. So in the first one, Blake and Shelley are both romantic poets who explore ideas of power, controlling people, resulting in great suffering. So when it says romantic poets, we've got our genre there. It's poetry, but romantic poets. And this part is it's focusing on the question. So it's answering the question in that first sentence. Remember, you're not using the same vocabulary from the question, you're trying to rephrase it. Next part. In the poem London, Blake is a visitor who walks the misery streets of London. So right here, we've got our viewpoint. So Blake is a visitor. Just going to change that to a different color. So Blake is a visitor. Then we've got, he describes the bleak nature of the streets consistently in every quatrain, which contrasts with Shelley, who shows multiple voices in his poem, one being Pharaoh Ramses II. So straight away, I'm just going to draw an arrow. We've got our viewpoints. Now, I did also use some structural techniques, so I'll just use a different color for that. So we've got in every quatrain, and Shelley explores how Ozymandias was once a mighty oppressor whose power crumbled like his statue. And then we've got our next part. Shelley uses a fragmented sonnet to emphasize that power is not everlasting and oppression can be overturned. So over here, we have got our structure. And then in the next next sentence, we've also got our writer's intention. So they explore. So this would be our writer's intention. Okay, now moving on. We've got, on the other hand, Blake explores the plight of the poor during the Industrial Revolution to criticize those with higher status for their lack of care for others. Blake condemns all types of suffering, whereas Shelley specifically criticizes Ozymandias' tyrannical nature. Furthermore, Blake sheds light on the institutions in London being unjust to the people. So we've also got a contrast with what Blake is trying to do here. Higher status. So this again is our writer's intention. Now, if you remember from my planning video, Blake condemns all types of suffering is my first point. So I'm going to be underlining that afterwards. Do bear in mind, in that first sentence, I am specifically comparing both poets together, so that would be in one paragraph. And then I've got another point on Blake, and then we've got similarly, so I'm comparing the two in my actual introduction, just like I will do in my paragraphs. Ozymandias was a powerful and uncaring ruler whose status became easily destroyed in time. Moreover, the suffering of soldiers misled by the government is prevalent in London. However, Shelley presents the oppressor through Ozymandias being a controlling ruler. Okay, so over here, all of these ideas are my points. Now, if you're wondering about where the AO3 is, I've actually merged it with some of these sentences. Okay, so I want you to think about where is the AO3. I'm just going to give you a moment just to look for it yourselves before I do it. So I'm going to give you just a minute to go through it yourselves. Okay, I hope that we have been able to see it. What I've done is, for my writer's intention, I've merged AO3 together. So specifically, I'm going to use blue pen so we can see it. Where we've got whose power crumbled like a statue. That's thinking about historical context. The statue is real. Okay, do bear that in mind. The statue that Shelley is talking about is real. We've also got the plight of the poor during the Industrial Revolution. And we've also got the part about the people with higher status. So all of these things are AO3. Okay, so I hope that helps. Please make sure you are now going to be writing your own one. For this question, compare how the poets present human power in London and Ozymandias. Use this sentence starter there. Do bear in mind that maybe a human power could be quite weak or it could be quite strong. Does it change, and how does it change?